Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done. Well, it is Friday, February 3rd, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Robin Warner, affectionately known as a show wizard, a nod to my love of fantasy novels and a fancy way of saying that I'm the producer-director of our video podcast. Our fabulous show hosts, Catherine White and Fennell Norton, can't be with us today. We love them and miss them, but we have two terrific substitute hosts joining us today. So I am going to bring up Louisa Boyarsky and Mary Rarick. There we go.
Robin, great to be with you today.
It is great to have you. Well, I want to give you guys a formal introduction. Louisa, as you know, is a regular on the Friday Power Lunch with her ever popular grassroots update. But in addition to being the leader of the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, you may not know that she's also the Associate Director of Georgetown University's Center for Public and Nonprofit Leadership, where she runs their highly successful Nonprofit Management Executive Certificate Program. She's also an assistant research professor at the McCord School of Public Policy. And also joining us is Mary Rarick. Mary's the producer and host of You Can't Beat Blue, a fun, upbeat, and unpredictable look at today's hot issues. Mary's a super connector and a TikTok sensation, and she's joining us all the way from Portland, Oregon. So welcome, Louisa and Mary. So the theme of today's show is about what it takes to flip a seat blue. Mary, I know you give this a lot of thought. What's your take on our theme?
Every single race matters. The margins are razor thin. We lost the House of Representatives by 6,683 votes across 5 districts. And the stakes are high because what happens in a state can affect our whole country. Look at Mississippi. The Mississippi law is what took down Roe.
There you go. Louisa.
Well, you know, in Virginia in 2017, when we started the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, it was all about flipping seats from red to blue, and we flipped 15. And this year, we have to do it again. Fortunately, we don't have to do 15, but we need at least 3. And it's really important for us to be constantly talking about, well, what's it going to take to flip these seats? Because as we've seen over the last 2 years, it makes a huge difference if we have control of the state house and Senate or if we don't. And so it's a critical year of elections in Virginia. And I'm really, really excited to be talking today about flipping seats.
And who will you be talking to, Louisa?
Well, I am very excited that I'll be chatting with Jamie Perrapato. She is the executive director of Turn PA Blue, and we want to learn from their successes in Pennsylvania this year. They also started their coalition in 2017, but they had to flip their house in Pennsylvania, flipping 12 seats this year. And of course, we know about the very important Senate race that happened there too. So I'm excited to talk to her about the journey. What has happened in Pennsylvania since 2017? And what is she looking for going forward? What are some of the success stories?
Great. Mary, who will you be interviewing today?
I'm interviewing 2 guests today. At first, I'm talking with KERENSA Summers, and she has the unique opportunity to flip a seat blue for the first time in over 30 years in Prince William County. Then I'm speaking with Sara Ratcliffe, and she's not just running as a candidate. She understands that to win in rural Virginia, candidates need to work together to build on past successes. So I'm really excited to speak with both of them.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to bring you back in a minute. But right now, I want to do a little bit of show business about it. So the chat is open. Say hello. Let us know where you're from, zooming in and what you're up to. We love connecting in the chat throughout the show, but please be friendly and constructive. We're a warm and welcoming community. Everyone in our live audience and registered for the Friday Power Lunch will receive the Sunday recap email. The recap is a summary of the show with links to the recording, as well as information on calls to action and material provided by our guests. If you're not getting our emails, let us know. It could be that you accidentally unsubscribed to the Friday Power Lunch's valuable emails. Let us know at networkvirginia@gmail.com or contact anyone in the Power Lunch crew. We will have a short after chat today, everybody's favorite part of the show. The after chat is a place for our community to continue the conversation started with our guests and talk about issues, events, and calls to action. So plan to stay for the after chat, and we invite our guests to stay as well. If you like what we do here on the Friday Power Lunch video podcast, consider supporting the show by becoming a Patreon. We'll put the link in the chat. And I want to personally thank our newest 2023 show supporters, Lindley Thorne, Christine Payne, Melissa Luxon, and Pat Kadinsky. In addition to being a supporter, we ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook group. It's not too early to mark your calendar for the big statewide Women's Summit, now in its 7th year, July 22nd and 23rd at the McLean Hilton here in Northern Virginia. We'll also be having our satellite women's summits around the state, and more to come on that. So mark your calendar for the Women's Summit, all in to win Virginia, July 22nd and 23rd. So here we are, February 3rd, and February is Black History Month. Even though Fennell can't be with us today, she wanted to kick off our celebration by introducing the Friday Power Lunch's Black History Month Challenge. To do this, she made us a video. So take it away, Fennell.
I love Black History Month. I know it's only 28 days, the shortest month of the year, but it's okay because it's intentional. It is the opportunity that we take to celebrate Black excellence. And you guys get to all celebrate it too. We all do. We all get to learn about it. So for the start of Black History Month, we're going to learn about one of my favorite singing sensations. You might not know about her, but it's Marian Anderson. We're going to show you a short video about her that is actually the trailer for a full documentary about her life. My challenge to you this Black History Month is to do something intentional to learn about Black history. Watch this documentary about the incredible history of one of our nation's musical treasures, Marian Anderson. The link to the documentary is in the chat. Thank you, and enjoy all 28 days to the fullest.
So links to this week's Black History Month challenge will be in the chat, and you'll also find them in the Sunday recap email. And speaking of doing something intentional this Black History Month, our Women's Summit Poet Laureate, Tamara Addison, is performing February 10th in Alexandria, You, Me Poetry, where words and emotionals come to play. So information is in the chat. Now I'm excited to bring back Louisa Boyarsky, leader of the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, to give her grassroots update, and then talk to our first guest, Jamie Perrapato. Louisa, take it away.
Thanks so much, Robin. And I love how we're talking about the use of arts as a way to show our activism. So, there's so many different ways to be active. And as you know, since we're in the legislative cycle, I will be talking about calls to action that you can be taking this week to make a difference related to a number of bills that we have been working on through the Virginia Grassroots Coalition. But first, I want to talk about some of our successes. So this week, we've seen a lot of great bills pass out of the Senate. We have a bill that increases mental health resources for schools, a bill on safe firearm storage, a bill prohibiting open carry of assault weapons, and ghost guns ban that have all passed the Senate. This is really exciting. Just want to remind everyone, though, next week is crossover, and we're going to have to try to get them through the House, which is a lot harder. So when you see calls to action coming from Stare and I, please make sure that you take those calls to action seriously. They're super easy to send, either the email through Action Network or the email through our one-clicks on the Virginia Grassroots Coalition website. But it's going to be that much harder in the House than it has been in the Senate to get things passed, since we do not have the majority. I also want to let you know that there's some great bills that passed out of Senate committees and are going to be considered on the Senate floor. Those also need your support this coming week. There'll be one on gender diversity on corporate boards. There's one on improving academic achievement. There's one supporting English language learners, and one on mental health resources. And then a couple of really great news bills out of climate and clean energy. There was broad bipartisan support for the Affordable Energy Act in both the House and the Senate committees, and it just unanimously passed out of the House committee yesterday and passed the full Senate yesterday with a vote of 40-0. This is pretty much unheard of, and it's really exciting to see that we have bipartisan legislation that is being sponsored by Senator McClellan and others. And I really encourage you, when you see those calls to action for the Affordable Energy Act, please make sure that you take those seriously as well and share them with others. And then also Senator Favola's bill that helps public schools access renewable energy also just passed the full Senate 40-0. So it will be going over to the House. So wanted to let you know that even when Democrats are not fully in control, we have opportunities to make a difference. So please continue engaging with us on these calls to action. And I will say that we have done a great job in defeating some bills as well. I heard from our criminal justice reform team that we defeated every single priority bill that they had in the Senate, stopping rollbacks on criminal justice reform. They protected evidence-based reforms, which help our communities stay safe. So again, we're going to have some additional calls to action when we have those House bills rolling over to the Senate next week. But again, thank you so much for all of your support thus far. I'm going to put some calls to action with their links into the chat. If you have time while you're listening during our power lunch today, I really encourage you to take those actions now. One of them is on the bill that I've been working on to reform our recall process. That bill is now on the Senate floor, and it should be voted on early next week. Really want to make sure all of our senators hear from us. It passed out of committee unanimously with bipartisan support as well. So we're really excited about the momentum that it has, and hopefully we can have similar bipartisan support as it gets passed through the Senate into the House. So again, please take these calls to action, keep it up. For the recall process, we still need to send about 70 or 75 more letters. So that's an easy one to do while you're listening to us chat with our fantastic guest speakers. So that is my update for this week. I will not be with you next week, unfortunately, because I am running an executive program at Georgetown, but I'll be with you the following week with some additional updates. But definitely look out for our calls to action that you'll be getting through the emails that I send and that Stare sends every couple of days. So, Robin, I think we are ready for our first guest speaker. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, so excited. I was mentioning to Jamie that I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I'm particularly interested in hearing about, the journey that Turn PA Blue has taken over the course of the past however many years it's been now. You started in January of 2017.
Yep.
And I thought maybe we could start our discussion with, Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016. And then you co-founded Turn PA Blue. And then, 4 years later, Biden won the state. Wondering, what were your lessons learned from those first 4 years? What did it take to turn things around in Pennsylvania?
I think one of the biggest problems we had in Pennsylvania, and we're on a different electoral schedule than Virginia. So Virginia is their state legislative elections are up this year. For us, they're up even years. So I just want to point that out. I think one of the things was learning the disconnect between, you say the top of the ticket and what's happening on the ground, the DNC and the party. It's not a big party. It's not like everyone's communicating with each other and everyone's on the same page. It's really disjointed, and a lot of the information doesn't flow through other people working for the same cause, and also to voters, I think, in an accessible way. So that was kind of what we realized is, there's all these people who popped up after Trump and they were so passionate and they wanted to get involved, but it wasn't accessible. And I think that's one of the things we see with a lot of party politics or, issue-based organizations. Like, how do we make this accessible to regular citizens who want to use their voices?
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So over the course of 5 years, I guess it was 4 years, actually 3 cycles anyway, we flipped 20 House seats in Pennsylvania and took the majority for the first time in over a decade. It's a tight majority, 102 to 101. And the thing that's super interesting, if you want to mention Pittsburgh, is on February 7th, we have 3 special elections, all of which are in Allegheny County.
Mm-hmm.
We lost one of our representatives, passed away right before the election. Representative Austin Davis is now our Lieutenant Governor. Austin Davis, the first Black Lieutenant Governor in Pennsylvania. And one of our favorite state representatives, Summerlee, is now going to Congress. And you will see her and love her as much as we do in Pennsylvania when she gets rolling. Look for Representative Summerlee. So we have to fill those 3 seats, which are comfortable Democratic seats. So technically right now, despite the fact that we're in the majority, we only have 99 because we have 3 open seats. So we have a lot of shenanigans here in Pennsylvania. But anyway, that's your Pittsburgh shout out. So if you still have friends in Allegheny County, likely they're to be voting for House this weekend to secure our majority.
Great. Well, any information that you have about those races or ways that we from outside of the state can be helpful, please throw those in the chat.
Yeah, I'll pop it in the chat.
So I wanted to talk about, you mentioned the importance of coordination. And I think that that's something that we also saw here in Virginia. There's a real challenge where, as you mentioned, the state party, but with influence from the national party, we're making decisions about where investments were made for different races in the state. And what does it take to actually coordinate so that, you're not stepping on each other's toes, you're not duplicating efforts, but you're finding a way to bring in these grassroots activists to have the greatest impact possible during these elections?
I think what I learned the most is that what you can expect from the top of the ticket is consistent. And, what are they going to do? When the DNC comes here, it's only because they want to elect a president or they have, congressional seats. Like we had the huge Senate race with John Fetterman. So the DSCC was here, which they aren't always. So it's a matter of everybody on every level of ticket is focused on their race. Yeah. And it's different in this race. Like what Biden needs to win Pennsylvania is not what I need to win a state rep seat. So stop waiting for the cavalry. They're not coming. They're not, the more grassroots of an area that you're working, the less likely it's going to be there. I used to feel like that was a curse, and now I feel like it's a blessing, to be honest. You need to run these local races at the community level with people who are familiar with the issues and who care about it, not people who are parachuting in. And our success in Turn P Blue is based on we work every election, every cycle, every year. As I said, this year we don't have state legislative elections. They're even years for us, but we are working within the footprint of where we need to win and where we need to hold in school board races. I know you see it across the country. I'm sure a lot of the headlines you see are from Pennsylvania. We have the Moms of Liberty are like infesting things up here. They are the right-wing agenda. We have a school board in Bucks County, which is literally decides control of the House pretty much in Pennsylvania. And it's the worst, one of the worst school boards in the country. They do horrible things that everybody does, book banning, all this anti-LGBT stuff. But there's a level of cruelty to them that is kind of like the one that really broke me, I feel like, was they were making a policy so that staff and teachers could not were required to dead name trans kids, essentially. There's no reason for that policy. They were trying to say, you can have nicknames, and they were trying, they were just doing it to just be hateful and cruel. And the teachers stood up against it. We were probably we're always in national news. A librarian was told to take down quotes from Elie Wiesel from the library because and it was from his Nobel Prize speech, which was about, oppression it is so mind-boggling, and getting people involved at this community level where, like, I'm not political. People don't like politics. They don't. But this is different. Oh, this is the Central Bucks School Board. But if you Google shitty school boards in Pennsylvania, maybe a different adjective, but we have all of them. They're trying to gerrymander a school district right now to there's just no stopping. There's no shame. And we have this stuff, we're facing it. So this is what the community cares about. So we're going to go into the community and help them with that. And once they trust them and they trust their own voices, then you can get them to vote. And I am quite sure, quite positive that, we helped Biden get elected. Biden did not help us down ticket, because there's people who would flip for Biden, but they come back because they know, oh, I know the guy, he comes to the parades, he fills the potholes. I'm like, yes, but he's also voting for the most restrictive abortion amendment in the country when he gets up to Harrisburg. So, it's a matter of being there and talking to them as community members. And that's why the grassroots is the most important thing. The party handles like the big ticket stuff. Like I said, it's like the Oscars. Like when you're rich, you get a free dress, you get all the swag, and they're going to go and they're going to turn out all the blue areas, and they're going to go on TV and do all the TV things. Like we're in the purple areas to talk to the community, and Absolutely. They don't make it there. They don't make it there.
And same thing in Virginia. I mean, a very, very similar model in terms of the party takes care of the top, and then we try to figure out all the rest of it. I'm wondering.
Stop waiting for them. Waiting for them. They're not coming. If they do, it's for GOTV when everybody's out. So count on them for GOTV and you'll feel great about it. But if you think they're coming in sooner, you're crazy. So there's so many people who just sit and wait and wait and wait. I'm not waiting. I don't wait, especially on them.
Totally. I'm just wondering, burnout has been an issue. So grassroots groups, some of them have dwindled in size. Activists are getting tired of having constant fights to fight, whether it's at the school board level or somewhere else. Wondering what you're doing in terms of keeping people motivated, keeping them in the fight, especially for us, since we're doing it every year, trying to figure out, what are some of those strategies that you've been using to keep the grassroots, engaged and excited?
We are having a lot of interest. These are people who've been working with us to flip the House. So, despite we're having a special election on February 7th, and we had 50 volunteers last night on a phone bank, and they made like 15,000 calls, because we've communicated with enough, trained to them, this is the majority for us. We just have to get these 3 seats. Nobody takes anything for granted anymore because everything's wild and unprecedented all the time. But one of the things we're doing, and we're trying to relook at our model with this fatigue in mind, because not only is it tiring because you're busy, it's emotionally tiring. There's only so much a human can take of these horrible things, So one, we have 20,000 volunteers that volunteer for us. It's not constant, it's in and out. I can't do the special election right now because my heart is broken over something that happened. But that's okay. We have you. We do it this time. And to try to change our model, we're starting a nonprofit to do some work on the tax exempt side, but it's just a matter of, this is our civic duty now. I'm trying to say, like, what do you do every year? You make your dentist appointment, you get your mammogram, you make calls to help people return their ballots. Like, that's what you can do as a community member. You don't have to go out there and break your own heart every day. And that's what happens. Like, what is there, 135 of you on a call right now or on a Zoom right now, plus whoever else listening to hear about some crazy shit that happens in Pennsylvania. It's because you feel it, you feel it inside. You can't look away. It's like the quote that, they made them take down in Central Bucks is, you can't look away in the face of injustice, and you guys aren't. So we have to make this community based, and we have to feel a civic obligation insofar as it's election time. I have to make sure if I can't go in there and punch and do the work that, is the hard part of this, I can go in there and help, elderly people complete their ballots. We had so many ballots invalidated. Most of these people were in their 80s and 90s because, they make, the Republicans, they make it intentionally difficult. We lost so many ballots because on the thing, you have to have the date on your mail-in ballot. You have to write your signature and the date. And some people would put their birth date. Some people left it blank. And those ballots were thrown out, despite the fact that they had a postmark and that they've been sequestered since they came in, and they got a date stamp from the Department of State. So that, you have to have the energy to fight that injustice. Like, these people were calling, we're like, did you get your ballot? Do you know where your drop box is? That kind of things. So moving people to options that are civic based, that, it's part of our community work, like, picking up litter, things like that. Like, we want to live in this better place. We need to be a part of it. And there's ways to do the work that's important to give your soul a break, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, I think that that's a really, really good advice. And, I think that's what we've learned as well. It's sort of, how are you, best using your energy? And if you do need to take a break, because we need you to come back, right? So really, that's really helpful. I'm also wondering, this past year, you did get a lot of support from out of state in Pennsylvania. What did it take to kind of coordinate those different groups who were coming into the state wanting to make a difference? It's not the party. These are like other grassroots or groups from, state level, et cetera. Wondering what that was like for you guys. And was there any particular strategy you used to kind of keep everyone sort of on the same playing card, or, in the same direction?
I think it's the consistency. I think the fact that we're here every year, all election, like, if you're somebody from a group like yours, who wants to connect here, they probably don't even have the staff for the state party right now. So there's gaps, but we're always here. So we'll either hold you in the space until the people you need to connect with are ready for you. And, over time, our volunteers trust us. If you're going to come to us, and we're going to, ask you for the most valuable thing you have, which is like your heart and your time, we're making it worthwhile for you. You're doing something useful. You're not going to be wondering, am I doing something that helps? Is this worth my time? It's worth your time, because we wouldn't put it before you. I mean, and I'll say this, like, we had phone banks with the state party several times that were so crappy that we pulled out. I'm like, I'm not sending my volunteers that crap. Like, that's offensive. Like, it's offensive for people. They can do a lot of stuff. So, we listen to our volunteers, like, we talk to them, and they know we're not going to put up with this. Like, we have so many people need help, and I know my vols, and I'm sure you're the same. I rather help like a candidate in the Lost Hope district who has her heart and soul into it, but then by doing junk that, somebody's churning to like get their numbers up for whatever metric they think they need to prove to somebody that means nothing, and all of this. So, but we have the power. Like, I don't think about them anymore. I think about, they handle all the television, and Pennsylvania is going to perpetually be the popular girl, because we are the swingiest of swingy states. It's moving the right way, but we have a very strong, very dangerous, very politically connected, nationally, a Republican Party here. I'm sure you all hear about Scott Perry, who's being investigated by the FBI. One of the insurrectionist favorites, our governor candidate, Doug Mastriano, one of the insurrectionists, and he wears Spurs. He's still in the Senate. he was banned from his own caucus until he was the nominee because he was so horrible. They wouldn't even let him in their horrible caucus. And then he was the nominee, so then they had to let him back in. But that's
Oh
for real.
my
Like that's
God.
how Pennsylvania is.
That's crazy.
So
So
you know, it's
yeah.
we see what's important. You guys see what's important. That it is you're asking a lot of people to do this, to put their hearts out there, to do that. It's not easy work. It's not, you know, when I'm in these meetings, like I said, we're starting this nonprofit, and they talk to me like about volunteers, like have your volunteers do this, you know, like you're like volunteers are like a tool that I have like a wrench. I was like, that's not how it works. Like they're not going to do that. They're not going to appreciate that. They're not going to, that's not worth their time. And so it's just funny how we're like, the people who are part of the movement that are doing the work, we're like a commodity. Like we're not even like human beings sometimes, I think. So and you know,
And we have
it's
to push
human.
back on that, right? And let
Oh my God, I push back every
all the
day.
time.
It's one of my few
Yeah.
pleasures in life to tell them like how full of crap we are. And then we do twice what they do because people care about this. You know, they're not in and out, they're in. So we want to find ways to make it manageable so we can help all the time, every year, every cycle. It matters if we take the majority right now, because one of the things we were able to stop is we had a constitutional amendment going on the ballot that was banning abortion. Like
In here,
it was
yep.
ready to go, you know, and we stopped it by flipping the House. And nobody thought we could flip the House. Like nationally, they didn't think we could flip the House. Kudos to the States Project, which is just like, it's such a ballsy, tough organization who just goes in and punches, and I'm obsessed with them. But, you know, this was done by people who fight for it. It doesn't, you know, if it's not going to cascade into your lap, this stuff doesn't just happen. You got to fight for it every vote. And, you know, that's what you guys do. That's what we do. That's what a lot of the people here do. And that's the part that's inspiring. I don't even think about them really anymore. I don't.
Yeah. No, that's great. And just wondering, have there been any tactics that you've seen work really well that you're kind of surprised about? Or are you finding that, like, you know, we still just need to be knocking doors? What is it that, you know, you're seeing as being successful in getting us to flip some of these seats?
Well, I mean, there's no secret sauce here. Like the thing is, it is communication, human communication from one person to another. You know, the most effective, you know, is when you're looking someone in the eyes and talking to them. That's why they can check you out, that, you know, and you make this connection and they are with you. Phones turned around like crazy from COVID, because there's some people who are not comfortable in public spaces and don't want you in their space, and people are willing to have more phone calls. And I don't know if that's because they're lonelier or whatever. And I think it's the way you communicate with people. We have a very hyper aware electorate. You know, this isn't like when people didn't used to know stuff. Like people know everything, and what they're yearning for is they want to know the truth. Like they tune a lot of stuff out because it's so hard to tell what's real. And, you know, by communicating facts to them, like the outreach we do is encouraging people to sign up to vote by mail. Because here's a secret, here's the top secret sauce. If you make voting easier, more people do it. So we like that. They don't. We don't need to jam our candidates down their throat. We don't need to tell them, you know, the same talking points that we say all the time. You know, we're having a dialogue, but they want information. They want to know things that are factual. And that's what we can do. I think sometimes like we oversell, like, send me $3, I'm going to kill Nancy Pelosi, you know, those kind of things. And people are like, you're not really going to kill Nancy Pelosi, you know, but people just want to be told the truth. They just want to know what's real. And by providing them information to empower themselves, you know, we're in a very polarized climate. If they want to learn and they want to know, odds are we're going to get them. Because if you're going to do 1 ounce of real research, you know, whatever, not QAnon research or what Tucker Carlson told me, it's not an easy path to see that where, you know, the Democrats are putting forth plans to help people. Like it gets more and more clear every day that this Republican Party has been hijacked by extremists, and then the other half is solely looking out for corporate interests. So there's nobody looking out for people. And, you know, the more people that wake up, and I think just being a steady, informational, consistent voice is the secret, is the trick. And it's human contact. We saw, I mean, I don't understand why people don't talk more about how COVID really set this world on its axis. You know, everything shifted for everyone. I mean, I had a middle schooler and a high schooler and an elementary school doing it, just them. But the way people look at, how we approach each other and things, I think that's an opportunity that you need to have by calling people. One of our most valuable programs we do is called Women to Women phone banks. And it's just ordinary women who care about this. You don't need to have a PhD, in political science or, know Rachel Maddow's flowcharts by heart. You have to feel it, and you have to talk about why it's important to you so that you're coming out of your comfort zone to talk to someone else. And these are really effective emotional calls that we're having. Like, we actually got recommended by the caucus one time that we should have a mental health counselor at the end of it, because everybody was like just connecting on these calls. So don't discount human connection. And that's why we're better at this than the party and the big guys, because that's what we do. We connect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is really an important place to end, is this reminder of, we need to connect. We need to remember that it's about one-on-one, right? This is not, I can, send, social media posts, fine, but it's a lot better if you text someone directly, right? How are you?
Lists and universes are made up of people who are dealing with their own stuff, who have to get their kids to soccer practice, whose furnace just broke. Like, these are not lists, they're people. And I always try to remind people of that at launches and things like that. These are people going about their day that we're asking something of them. And so we need to be very gracious when we do it.
Absolutely. And I think, as you're saying, yeah, and talking about our own experiences, but then listening. And I think that that's the other thing. Some people just want to be heard, and this is an opportunity for that. So just looking forward to the future, Jamie, what is your hope for the grassroots movement and our ability to continue to protect democracy in this country?
Well, this is the first time that we were close enough to actually, when we started, we were on the wrong side of a supermajority, and we've never been in the majority. So the fact that we are now in a position to even advocate for things, because before it was, Governor Wolf was a great governor. We have a new governor, Josh Shapiro, who's going to be equally great, but, he's great with a veto pen, and he never really got to stretch his legs out and legislate. And we never got to do a lot of this stuff. So the fact that we're going to be legislating in Pennsylvania, we control the calendar, we may not get past our horribly regressive, disgusting Senate, but we're in it, we're doing it. You guys got to do it. It's tough to get in and out, and you guys get beat up a lot in Virginia, but you're in it, and that's where we are for the first time, where, we just be opposed, or they don't care they don't even tell us what they're voting on. So we're in it. We're in the mix.
Well, that is exciting. I'm excited for you guys, and I'm hoping that we get to join you in that next year. I mean, we do have the Senate and not the House, so technically we're sort of in it, but we don't have a governor, so it makes it.
Well, we sent an extra Democrat to both, so Pennsylvania in the House and Senate.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jamie. Really appreciate all your insights.
Oh, thanks for having me. You guys are great. This is so great.
Back to you, Robin.
Thank you, Louisa. Well, now I'm going to bring up Mary Rarick, who's going to do our next two segments. Welcome, Mary. I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Robin. I'm looking forward to this next segment. Hello, KERENSA. KERENSA Summers is a candidate for the Gainesville District Supervisor in Prince William County in a special election happening February 21st, which is just a couple of weeks away. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Great. I was wondering if you can start off, let's just jump in and tell us why is it important? There are 5 out of the 8 seats on this board that are held by Democrats. Why is it important to flip your seat in this special election?
Well, 1, no seat is always secure. So we always want to make sure that we maintain the majority. That's 1. 2, my district is at an impasse. We have one side of the county that has been prevented from having any sort of growth. And then the other side of the district is having a ton of issues with growing too quickly. So it's all about making sure that, we have people in these positions who make conscientious choices and who are actually forward thinking and who are thinking about how we can make a real community versus, oh, I'm only going to do things for the people who vote for me. That's just not my point of view. My whole goal is to make sure that this district flows again, that it's not an us versus them, that it's not, oh, well, no one cares about that part of this, district. It's only this part of the district that matters. And also listening to what everyone has asked for. The biggest issue we're having in all of my district is we don't have any really enough sidewalks. We don't have pedestrian bridges. We've had multiple accidents where kids are getting hit crossing a street. We're having a massive crisis with housing in our entire county, but especially in my district. There's been a no growth policy for a long time for a certain section of the county, and especially within my district. And it's led to a lack of housing, a lack of affordable and obtainable housing. And when we say affordable, I'm not talking about low income housing. I'm talking about people who earn over $70,000 but don't make as much as $110,000, still can't afford to rent. That's insane.
It is.
That is unconscionable, because that's actually the range of our police officers, our firefighters, our EMS, our teachers, all the people that we really need can't afford to live here.
That's horrible. Talk to us about the state of the race. You've just got a few weeks. What's the state of the race now? What can we do to help?
Phone banking, calling, helping me door knock, anything, raising money. Like, it's crazy, because this will be the first time I'm going up against an opponent who has a lot of people behind him who have very unkind views of any type of change. And that's just, it's hindering, because you can't say, oh, we don't want new taxes, but we don't want business. Oh, we don't care. Like, I've actually heard someone actually said straight to my face, we just don't want people like you here. And it's like, oh, okay, understood that that's literally all you care about. And that's very upsetting, because our kids need better things. We need teachers, because we're in a massive shortage of teachers in Prince William and in my district especially. We have our mass transit is so limited, and it's all because of these no growth policies. We have so many things that we can do, and what I'm looking to do is actual actions that help, versus just saying no and throwing a temper tantrum, which is what we're seeing on the other side.
Well, thank you for joining us today. The team has dropped your links into the chat. Feel free to engage with people over there. Let's help Kerensa flip this seat blue. It's about time.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Next up, we have Sara Ratcliffe. She's the candidate for the newly drawn House District 62. You've been a guest before, Sara, but could you give us a 90-second introduction for the newcomers that are here?
Absolutely, I would love to. And thanks so much for having me. I've been a Power Hour guest, but also a longtime show attendee. So I'm excited to be here. So I did run before in the 58th district in 2021. After redistricting, the county that I live in, Greene County, was flipped into an entirely new district that encompassed most of another old district. So my new district, which is out in the Piedmont, sort of west of Shenandoah Valley, east of Shenandoah Valley and west of Prince William, includes all of Greene County, all of Madison County, a good portion, about 2/3 of Culpeper, and then the western half of Orange County. So that, like, right there in the center. I think that one of the reasons that I was excited to come on this show is because I have varied experience. I grew up in the Midwest. My dad came from a little town, 1,000 person in Nebraska. My mom came from the Chicago suburbs, but her family really hailed from the really rural Illinois, corn country. And when I came east for college, I went to college in Washington, D.C. I got bit by the political bug, and I've been involved in politics either professionally or through volunteer since. And one of the things that I discovered when my husband and I moved out from the DC area, in 2016, one of the things that I discovered was that I had this ability to really bridge the gap. We've heard a lot about the rural-urban divide. We've heard a lot about the gap between those folks out there and the urban progressives who know what we're doing. It's not actually true as much, that there's a disconnect more than a gap, I would say. But what I discovered was that I can sort of float back and forth, and I feel comfortable in both of those communities. And so being able to talk to people one-on-one and authentically is part of why I thought, maybe I should put my money where my mouth is and run for office. So now here I am in my second race for the House of Delegates. I'm happy to talk more about my race later, but I think that the reality is we're just getting started. We have unlike KERENSA, we have until November. It's unlikely I'm going to have a primary, although that's still a possibility. So June would be the earliest that I'm really in the running. So we're just ramping up the campaign, getting in donations, and certainly trying to look for staff and making some plans. But I have been working for the last 2 years, since my campaign ended in 2021. I have been working with my colleagues in the local Democratic committees, as well as a number of other folks out here, trying to do good work and keep the needle moving. And that's, I think, one of the things that I think we in the rural progressive community need to talk about more. I totally agree with Jamie that, we can't wait for the powers that be at either the state or national level to come and save us. We have to do it ourselves. But I would argue it's about more than saving us. It's about reconnecting us. It's about finding the folks who already are with us and trying to give them, empower them, and connect to them in a more deeper way.
How is organizing in rural Virginia different from organizing in, say, Richmond?
So I think that there's a couple of things. The first is because Northern Virginia in particular is very focused on national politics and the Washington, D.C. and the business of government, naturally a lot of people are connected to that business. Even if they're not actually working for the government or for the Congress. But so folks are sort of focused in that level. And in Richmond, folks are really focused in the horse race a lot of times, who's governor, who's not, what policies are happening, what races are happening. The business of legislature, the actual governing that goes on, isn't always as much in the news as is the sort of scandal and horse race and, clickbait that happens naturally the way that our zeitgeist is these days. But so when you're talking to folks in urban areas, in my experience, be it Arlington or Henrico, that's just about making sure people are aware who's running and why it matters and turning out the vote. It's less about sort of convincing people, empowering people, moving people to understand that their voice and their value matters, that their vote is important and it makes a difference. So what we've been doing out here, several of the candidates who ran in 2021 with me, as well as folks who had run in cycles past, we've formed relationships. We've gotten to be friends. We were kind of a support team for each other. And so one of the things we've been really doing is a community approach, right? we've been working together. We've been sharing messages. We've been sharing information. We've been trying to shore people up, whether it's on social media or at events when we had events, to really make sure that it wasn't always just about me, but it was also about the neighbor next door and the folks running for Senate across the valley and other places, so that we were coming together. But what that also did was meant that the communities that were connected by county lines, or the communities that were connected by agriculture, or the communities that were connected by school districts, and even sometimes, competition of schools in the, high school sports are a big deal. So making sure that the folks that you're playing against in the state championships are also aware that your community is all one. So bringing to keep people together around shared ideas and goals for our community. And hey, let's be honest, as women and as a woman candidate, I can tell you, we generally work in community and coalition already. So doing this that way was not that complicated.
Talk to me about the value of a values-based conversation in your community.
Definitely. So at the outset, I will say there is absolutely no substitute for authentic face-to-face, one-on-one talk, real talk with voters. But part of that authentic conversation needs to be making sure that you're doing more listening than talking, that you're talking about community and shared values and the principles, rather than focusing necessarily on the national politics, the scandal signaling. Folks are sick of politics. I think KERENSA sort of said this. We need to talk about solutions. We need to talk about shared values. Why are we Democrats? Why do we believe that our policies are better? Because we think that no one should be left behind, because we think that everyone should have equal opportunity, because we think that hate is a bad way to run a government. These are the reasons why we are running, why we are trying to support the people that are on the show. And people actually connect with that far more than they do the buzzwords that sometimes get us caught in a conversation that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's true. It can be difficult to recruit candidates for rural races. I'm wondering if the kinds of coalitions that you're building in the community that you're building, if that helps with that.
It does. I think the other thing I would say about why we're doing it differently and how we need to think differently in rural spaces, and I think this is true across the country, not just in Virginia, but flipping rural back to the strong Democratic base that it once was is not going to happen overnight, right? We're going to have lots of races where we have almost no chance, but that doesn't mean we don't try. We can't continue to ignore this sometimes very small, but super strong base of progressive thinkers and staunch Democrats and like-minded neighbors who are sick to death of the politics of hate. So just as an example, my little county, Greene County, we have about 14,000 voters. In the 2017, 2019, and 21 House of Delegates elections, we inched up how many Democrats turned out for the House of Delegates candidate. I, for example, in 2021 was able to receive 2,400 votes here in Greene County. Not a huge percentage, but still impressive. That was 40% more than any candidate for Democrats had in 20 years, right? Abigail Spanberger comes along. Yay, our brand new Congresswoman. We got redistricted into her CD7, and she got 3,300 votes in Greene County. So we're moving the needle time to time. And I think that approach also means that we need to be recruiting folks both up and down the ballot. We're looking for a Senate candidate in Senate 28. We're looking for Board of Supervisors and candidates like KERENSA to run here in local elections. We have a lot of local elections this year in this area. We need to make sure that we're connecting with them, but also that we're showing that support and that community approach so that nobody feels like they're getting dropped into this race they can't win and don't understand what the consequences are. I believe if we do this work purposefully, outreach with deep connection to voters, and we're authentically and respectfully speaking to them in language that they feel as neighbors, that they will turn out for us. And it may just take a couple cycles to get there. So I think the recruitment is a big part, for sure.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, Sarah. The team will drop your links into the chat, and I'm going to turn it back over to Robin.
Thank you, Mary. Well, I want to thank our guest hosts today, Louisa Boyarsky and Mary Rarick. You were fabulous. And of course, our guests, Jamie Perrapato from Turnip Blue, KERENSA Summer, who's running in the special election for the Gainesville Supervisor that's on February 21st, and Sara Ratcliffe, what she's doing there, running in HD 62 and all the great work she's doing there in rural Virginia. Catherine and Fennell will be back next week, so we're looking forward to that. Let me thank the team in the Zoom room today. Sarah Calhoun, our ambassador of buzz, Heidi Dragneff, our social media diva, Dennis Orsinger, our graphic designer, Michelle McKinney, our chat liaison, Laura Martinez, our Zoom room helper, and our content concierge extraordinaires, Julie Galdo, Alvina McHale, and Sally Reinhold. We're going to roll credits, and do stay for the after chat. We will be doing a short one today. So here we go.